Hello, hello, my fellow gamers. This is Grunch, and now we have our Bant Control Standard Premier Event matches. Uh, actually upgraded my PC and was able to now record matches using EasyVid. Previously, my computer could not process the information fast enough to save match to match, but now we are capable of this amazing feat. So as a result, instead of trying to rely on Magic Online's extremely spotty replay option, I have the actual matches as I played them in progress. And this is round one. Obviously losing the die roll, whatever. Playing against Sandy Dog MTG. Some people may recognize that name. It's kind of a grinder. Alright, so here, this is a keeper. This I think is actually one of the pure examples of where Visionary shines in a situation over Augur. If this were an Augur, this is a mulligan. It's not even a debatable hand. But here, because I'm on the draw, I'm going to have two chances before I need that third land. Excuse me, three chances because of the Visionary. And then after that, the rest of the hand, you know, I've got all kinds of options. I actually think this was a totally fine hand. Draw another Visionary, which is pretty good. You know, I'm not at all unhappy with just sitting here cantripping for a while against another blue deck. He went Glacial Fortress into Plains, which made me think, you know, Bant controlled can't usually afford a Plains, so this and then he has an Augur, so I'm thinking he's either on blue, white, red, or Esper. My guess was Esper at this point, but it doesn't really make a difference. We don't have a choice in what we play here. We're gonna play a Visionary, and we're hoping to find some land. His Augur whiffed, which I just want to point out right now, I kept a hand that I couldn't have kept with Augur, and he played an Augur of his own and whiffed, and granted I haven't found a land yet, so that's, you know, not optimal, but I would have had to mulligan if these were Augurs instead, so. And here he plays another blue-white dual land, plays a Hollowed Fountain, and another Augur. So it's still not entirely clear that he's on blue, white, red versus Esper. But when he reveals a Searing Spear, that pretty much narrows it down. So I peel a Glacial Fortress here. I can't actually cast Loxodon Smiter, so I'm going to play the Visionary and see if I draw another land, because I might want to play a Shockland instead. I don't, so whatever, I'll play that. Notice, if I hadn't had the Visionary, I would not have had this Glacial Fortress. So yeah, I think my two Visionaries have done more work than his two Augurs at this point. Although the fact that we are, you know, still scrambling for land drops is a little bit problematic. And then the blue-white-red deck is actually probably the worst matchup. I'm not actually certain. I need to play a little bit more against some other decks, but the Harvest Pyre kill gives them inevitability in a way that is very difficult to answer, especially since they're not playing any counter magic in the main deck. Obviously things get a little better post-board. So here, I keep drawing not lands. And it's starting to get problematic, because if I don't, you know, if I miss a land drop in the first 4 or 5 turns, it's exceedingly difficult to recover from that in a blue-on-blue matchup. And I got lucky. I did peel a Hollowed Fountain. But again, if those 3 Visionaries had been Augurs of Bolas, I would have, at this point, missed 2 land drops, and this would be a non-game. It's still kind of looking not like the best for me, because, you know, I haven't really made any tempo, and I'm just kind of, you know, foundering around. So he plays a Restoration Angel here, and blinks an Augur. You know, at this point, with a Restoration Angel on the board, I know I'm gonna have to Wrath. He reveals an Essence Scatter, which is obnoxious, because now it means I can't just use my own Restoration Angel to try to stabilize from here. I know I'm gonna have to Wrath. And here, I'm gonna try to triple block one. The best thing that could happen here would be if he Searing Speared. He doesn't take the bait. He just trades an Augur for that. And I mean, why wouldn't he? And then again, I'm attacking. The 2 damage is relevant, but not terribly. I was just kind of hoping he would flash in another Resto Angel for when I just Wrath this turn, but I mean, that would have been greedy on his part anyway. So And then we hit the super awkwardness. So, like I said earlier, I got a new PC. Well, when you get a new PC and you start up Magic Online, one of the things you got to do is go back in and set your stops. I completely forgot about that, and so I was hitting F2 in the pattern to which I'm used to playing, which resulted in me passing through my second main phase here. This is a pretty inexcusable mistake. I'm not gonna sit here and try to say this was you should forgive me for this. No, this was terrible. This is inexcusable. I don't think the game is unsalvageable at this point, although we are down 2 land drops and a bunch of life, and even a couple of cards. So it's going to be really tough to come back from this level of a deficit. If I hadn't skipped that main phase, I actually suspect I may have been able to pull this game out. I know that's something of a spoiler to let you know that I'm going to lose, but you can't F6 through your turn and win in Constructed, or Limited for that matter. But so yeah, so I just super awkwardly did not have my stops set right. I also, on the previous turn, played a Restoration Angel when I thought it was I could cast it and then declare it as a blocker, but because of the awkward stops, I just cast it and it didn't even, it was so terrible. This game was thoroughly embarrassing. There's just really no excuse for not having my stops set when I start up a Premier event. Like, I really should have gone in and fixed this before I sat down. But anyway, at this point in the game, I am hoping I can start to resolve some decent cards. I'm going to have a handful of gas. I am up 2 cards in hand, although one of those is a land. But at this point, I know this Thragtusk is going to get scattered. And I'm just trying to, find any way to get something on the board so I can get something going. Because if we just, sit here for too much longer, eventually he's just going to Harvest Pyre me. So he has a Snapcaster. And what did he Snapcaster? Snapcaster's the Essence Scatter, I believe. Yeah, so he Snapcaster's Essence Scatter. So I haven't really been able to resolve anything. I'm getting kind of low on life. I'm actually really worried at this point. The blue-white red decks, there's a Boros Charm version, and there's, people have kind of merged the versions that both Joel Larson and Jerry Thompson played at the Pro Tour to the top 8. Like, people have taken elements of both of those decks. So I can't be sure that he can't just, like, Searing Spear me, Boros Charm me here. Like, he's got a Searing Spear. I'm just really worried. It's just, if he has Searing Spear plus Boros Charm, I'm actually dead. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. So I feel like the best thing I can do here is get the Smiter on the board, try to stop the Snapcaster, and possibly give me a source to lifelink to gain some life to get out of Boros Charm range, basically. Although, ironically, if he's got a Boros Charm and a Snapcaster and a Searing Spear, like, I'm actually dead. Like, there's nothing I could have done. Though, as you'll see, I think he was playing a somewhat lower burn amount than you could potentially play. Like, he's got Thought Scour and Izzet Charm and Essence Scatter, which means that his, like, overall amount of, like, he probably doesn't play Boros Charm at all in the main deck, if even in the 75. So he probably just has Searing Spears as a means to burn people, and I guess, whatever damage gets done to his Boros Reckoner. I'm not sure if I like that. I actually think the ability for the blue-white red decks to just burn people is pretty good. But anyway, here, yeah, I'm going for some life gain. Get myself out of burn range, or at least what I feel like is out of burn range. The problem is, if he just chains card drawing, between Izzet Charms, Thought Scours, Sphinx's Revelation, Snapcaster to redo all that, Uh, the blue-white red decks have a lot more ability to chain card drawing into additional card drawing than the Bant decks do. So you're much more needing to get a board position and pressure them, which, because of my insanely awkward stop situation, I was just so far behind that I was never really able to do that in this game. So here he's going to Sphinx's Revelation, which is pretty bad. Like, at this point, I'm going to be down like 8 or 9 cards on him. The chances of me pulling the game out are rapidly pulling away as far as just being unreasonable to even hope for. So at this point, I was thinking that I need to try to resolve my own Sphinx's Revelation. Basically, as soon as I can. I just type in the chat that, you know, I had my stops all messed up. This is the point where I finally figured out what was going on. I thought I was getting some kind of bizarre extreme lag. It's possible that the right play here is actually Angel of Serenity to try to get enough pressure on the board to actually do something, but I feel like I just, you know, if I don't ever resolve a Sphinx's Revelation, there's basically no chance I'm going to keep up. Although with him at 9, if I can Sphinx's Revelation and find a red mana source for that Wolf run, I'm actually, and there it is, I'm actually in pretty okay shape. Like, he's basically going to be getting threatened with lethal every turn from here on out, if I don't just sort of die. But, like I said, I've been worried this whole time that I am going to just die. The potential for that to happen is surprisingly high out of the Boros Charm versions, and even the non-Boros Charm versions have Harvest Pyre, and he's got enough junk in the graveyard to Harvest Pyre that, you know, it really doesn't take much. Just a Boros Reckoner and a Snapcaster at this point, and I'm just dead. So, so now here, I feel like I made a play mistake. I should have played that Sacred Foundry untapped. I'm so worried that he's just going to burn me out, but what I really, at this point, should have been thinking of is how do I force him to react to my board every turn. So this is just a misplay. This is, you know, if I'd played the red mana untapped, then he has to do a lot more here than just chump blocking the Lockstone Smiter. I can threaten to kill him, and so he needs to have additional gas to stay alive, which, I mean, I'm sure he does in hand, but, you know. So he ends up Azorius Charming my Restoration Angel anyway, so it wouldn't have ended any better for me had I gone for the Wolf run. But that doesn't make it the right play. Like, it's still, you know, even if I don't intend to actually use the Wolf run, just to force him to respect it is more important. And then here he's got another Restoration Angel, and, you know, so he gets value out of the Augur. Again, this is where if I had the Wolf run out, he couldn't make this play, because if I had, you know, I could Wolf run my guy for 5, which is 9 exactly, and with his creature leaving the board, he would have exactly died to the trample. So he couldn't have made this play if I'd played the red untapped mana. But anyways, the Augur reveals the Harvest Pyre, at which point the writing is pretty much on the wall for me. Like, I have no reason to think that anything is going to happen next turn other than he's going to cast Boros Reckoner. Boros Reckoner is going to get Harvest Pyred, and the trigger is going to target me, and I'm going to die. So you know, he has 15 cards in the graveyard, and he can attack me for 4, so that's a total of 19. There's no way I can gain 9 life. I just don't have the cards necessary to do that here. I don't have like a Thrag Tusk and a Restoration Angel, and I don't even have the mana to cast both of those, even if I had them. So the best I can do is Wrath, and then hope that he Harvest Pyres his Reckoner for less than he can. I mean, he can Harvest Pirate for 18, which just kills me. But what I have to hope is that he'll, for some reason, decide to leave some cards in his yard, Harvest Pirate me for 11, and I'll get out of it for 1 with the Sphinx's Revelation. This is a pretty narrow hope. It's not going to work, as you'll see. And there's no reason to think it would. But sometimes people play like this. I mean, on Magic, don't... Unless the chess clock is becoming an issue, which it's not. I'm 4 minutes ahead of him right now. I have 18 minutes left on my clock. It's not an issue. Unless the chess clock is an issue, don't concede on Magic Online. There's actually no benefit for it. This is very different as opposed to IRL Magic, where you don't have a chess clock, you have a round clock, you're both eating up time, and it becomes a completely different strategic decision that gets made. But here, I'm not going to concede, even though we're just waiting for him to go through the motions here. He's in the process of exiling cards with the Harvest Pyre. And it's this is just formality at this point. I could have easily just F6'd for all the difference it would have made. There's no reason to think I'm going to be able to get out of this. So yeah, it's a pretty tough matchup. Now, especially if they know about the Harvest Pyre kill and they know they have inevitability. Taking my counter magic out of the main deck certainly did not improve the matchup. I do think it's still a benefit overall. I mean, if I had 2 Dissipates in my deck, I don't think I would have won that game still. So now, here I am, changing my stops. This is crucial to know how to do for Magic Online. I assume everybody watching this knows how to do this at this point. But if you do not know, then here you go. Gameplay settings, set stops. And you want stops on upkeeps, both players, both main phases, both players, end steps, both main players. And I like every possible stop in combat as well. These things actually come up quite a bit. I don't think you need upkeep and draw step. That's pretty uncommon. But that's the only stop I don't think you need. So for blue, white, red flash, I'm not actually 100% sure how to board. I think it depends quite a bit on what exact version they're playing. But here, I mean, Witchbane Orb cuts off the Boros Reckoner kill, the Boros Reckoner Harvest Pyre kill, and it also shuts off the ability for them to kill you with just Boros Reckoners and triggers in general, like just off-blocking Thrag Tusks and crap. I also want the negates, because if I can stop their Sphinx's Revelation, I'm way ahead. It's not a primary fight. That's not that sort of the main axis you're fighting on. What you really want to do is just put threats on the board, wolf run them, force them to react to your value threats, and pressure them, which is just, that's what you want to do against all the control decks, actually. But it doesn't work as well here in the blue, white, red matchups, because they just, burn spells and Boros Reckoners are so effective. So I'm going to keep this hand. It's not exciting, but it has mana, and it has a Smiter and a Negate. So this hand puts me in a position to apply some pressure and keep that pressure on for a few turns. And then, beyond that, I'm going to have to draw something to keep going. But I don't want to mulligan this hand, despite it being mana heavy. The games do go a little bit longer, and making those land drops makes your later, and I did board up to another Angel of Serenity and another, I boarded in Witchbane Orbs as well, so my overall mana costs are a little bit higher in general. So I did cut Terminus and Supreme Verdict, so if we fall, significantly behind on the board, we can just die. That kind of sucks. I mean, what are you going to do? But you got to identify a role in the matchup to play, and I think this is the one I want to play. So I peel Azorius Charm, which is good. This is another way for me to keep damage on the board. I go get Sacred Foundry because I have plenty of blue mana. I'd rather have white mana. And as long as you don't desperately need to get like a Hallowed Fountain to fix your mana, you always want to go get red with your Farseek so that you can Wolf Run as soon as that becomes an option. A little bit concerned here because I only have one threat and I have not any card advantage in my hand. I'm just going to cast a vanilla 4/4. Okay, a 4/4 he can't counter, but still. The breeding pools are fine. They're not exciting, though. Probably the only saving grace about this hand is that so many players in these Sphinx's Revelations pseudo-mirrors assume everything comes to being about Jace, Memory Adept, and Negate and Dispel, and everybody's focused on that, and they board out a lot of their removal, which allows something like Loxodon Smiter to do a lot of good work. So now I draw Thragtusk, so this is good. So I can go Smiter into Thragtusk. This is a pretty good start that'll allow me to get pressure on the board and start attacking. You know, Smiter into Thragtusk is actually, you know, a pretty decent amount of damage. Doesn't take long to kill somebody hitting them for 11 a turn. Or a 9 a turn, excuse me. It's actually a 3-turn clock from here. So he's got a Boros Reckoner here. That's fine. Notice, he has to trade it for my Loxodon Smiter. It doesn't really have a better play. And then I have 2 Thragtusks, so I'm thinking, you know, he trades for this. I play these 2 Thragtusks, and then as long as he doesn't have another Boros Reckoner, I'm probably in pretty good shape. Restoration Angel doesn't stop this pressure. Jace, obviously, he's not going to cast Jace into my having a Thragtusk. That would just be suicidal for the Jace. There's no single removal spell he can play that trumps Thragtusk without also taking the Beast. I mean, I guess if he had Pacifism, that'd be pretty filthy, but that would be, you know, some super next level sideboarding. Sadly, though, he just has the one card he could have that we really don't want him to have. He has the second Boros Reckoner, which means this 3-power first strike creature is going to shut down my Thragtusks. And I'm kind of just going to sit here with my thumb up my butt. This game convinced me that I need at least a little bit more something to be able to push through Boros Reckoners post-sideboard against blue at red. Which is part of the reason that in the deck tech video I talked about adding Detention Sphere. Because if I could Detention Sphere this guy right now, I would be well on my way to winning. So I peel more land. I'm still just not in a position to attack. It's not worth throwing away the main body of a Thragtusk to get 5 damage through. Especially because if he also has like a Restoration Angel or something, like it's just... You know, if he has any other gas at all, this just gets progressively worse and worse for me here. So when we've hit the point where we're just going to cycle whatever Azorius Charms we have, because, you know, he can't swing Reckoner into, you know, he can't trade swings with double Thragtusk, and I need to find something to put myself in a position to attack here. I probably should have cycled this Azorius Charm a turn earlier, but I felt like I was in a position where if I drew another Azorius Charm, I'd be able to start attacking into that Reckoner, but instead we're just going to brick and draw lands. Lands for days. Man, Boros Reckoner just colds Thragtusk. If you didn't believe it, watching this game should pretty much convince you. Thragtusk is no longer the king of Standard. He has been dethroned. No longer the king of the North. Yeah. 3rd season of Game of Thrones, guys. If you're not into Game of Thrones, I feel bad for you. Alright, so here we go. Angel of Serenity. I don't want to have to exile just his Boros Reckoner, and obviously, I mean, I gotta put my Smiter back, but I'm sitting here thinking about, is there any possible way I can sandbag this? Any way I can slow roll? And there just isn't. You know, I have a negate. I have to get something going on the board. I gotta get these 2 Thragtusks in, or there's just actual no way I can win. And then he has, you know, for the second time in this game, he has the actual worst card for me. he's got counterflux, which means my negate doesn't even get my Angel of Serenity to the board. At this point, it feels like I've pretty much lost the game. Like, I need to, assuming he has a Snapcaster in hand, which is pretty reasonable, I need to top deck exceedingly well to beat what is going on right now. And obviously Moorland is not a quote-unquote exceedingly well top-decked turn. So I'm just sitting here with a negate, hoping desperately that his hand is entirely lands or Searing Spears he would have left in. But realistically, this is post-board. He's had a lot of time to, draw action. So I draw Sphinx's Revelation, which is a little bit of hope, but I can't just throw it out there because, he obviously has some counter magic. So the question is, am I going to get an opportunity to go for the Sphinx's Revelation? And that's really the only hope I have of this game, is that he would enable me to resolve a Sphinx's Revelation at this point. I think that it's possible I should have just let this Jace resolve. I do try to negate it. I'm hoping what'll happen here is that I bait his counter magic, which it does happen. I mean, he Snapcasters and counters my negate, and then that's going to let me resolve Sphinx's Revelation. And a Sphinx's Revelation is going to be for 6. So that's a halfway decent Sphinx's Revelation. That's the kind of action that can get you going somewhere in the game. And I'm not really worried about Jace milling me out. Granted, it's only 4 turns from now, but a lot's going to happen in those 4 turns, especially when I get to untap with this, the Sphinx's Revelation. What I'm really hoping to draw here is a Kessig Wolfrun. Unfortunately, we got kind of unlucky, and he milled one of my 2 Witchbane Orbs and one of my 2 Kessig Wolfruns with his mill 10 Jace ability. But this Sphinx's Revelation represents hope. So we have to we get 6 cards. It gives us a chance to try to get somewhere into this game. Let's see what happens here. And alright, so that's some stuff. It's not a Wolfrun or a Witchbane Orb. Those are the 2 things we really wanted, or another Angel of Serenity. But Restoration Angel is going to let us start crashing into that. I decided to attack Jace because, it's only... I'm not going to be able to cast another Sphinx's Revelation if he's able to leave Jace on the board. But I don't have a way to push through. I didn't draw my Wolfrun or Angel of Serenity, and as a result, his 2 blockers stop me from killing his Jace. So I let him target my Thragtusk with the Reckoner trigger here, so I can get the Reckoner off the board. And then I'm going to Restoration Angel it, and I've got a lot of power on the board here at this point. It's debatable whether I should try for a Revelation for 5 here, or 6. I'm not sure if I play the land or not. Or if I should play the other Thragtusk. But after a little bit of consideration, I decided the other Thragtusk is probably better because he almost certainly boarded out either all or most all of his Supreme Verdicts. At least that's my expectation. And so I just want to swarm the board, and because I'm going to get milled again for 10, and I got to try to kill him now. And he hits one of my other Kessig Wolfruns, but I did board in a third, so I have 1 more Kessig Wolfrun in those last 14 cards. And the question is, what am I going to be able to do on my turn? And what is he going to do with the rest of his mana? And can I kill Jace or kill him? Well, not a few points. I'm 1 point short. So he has Mizzium Mortars still, which is this is pretty unfortunate because it just kills all my guys. This is actually one of the cards that my aggro plan post board is a little bit weak against, is Mizzium Mortars, because it's more reasonable to keep in Mizzium Mortars than it is to keep in Supreme Verdict in these kind of matchups, but I don't expect he's got a lot of Mizium Mortars. He probably has 1 or 2 left in the deck. So we're in a situation here where if I had some more cards in my library, I could probably win. If I had found either Witchbane Orb or Kessig Wolfrun, I could probably win. Even an Angel of Serenity last turn would have killed his Jace and put me in a position to win. But I've just, all I have drawn is additional Sphinx's Revelations, which are usually great cards, but when you're down to 12 cards in your library, they're fairly suicidal. It's a little unfortunate for me, just the fact that I didn't find either of the, I guess 3 cards, Witchbane Orb, Kessig Wolfrun, or Angel of Serenity. Any of these would have helped me break through. And then in the new version of the deck, I'm also going to have Detention Spheres, and all of these cards would have potentially broken me through this game, but none of them will do it here, so I have to go for a risky Sphinx's Revelation to try to kill that Jace this turn. Because if I don't kill Jace this turn, I'm just dead. Like, I don't get another untapped step. And I expected he's going to have something, so I was trying to draw into either more Negates or a Wolf Run or a Witchbane. I was trying to draw into anything that could be relevant to the board here. But he has an Azorius Charm, which means he's going to get to Jace me, which means I'm dead. So, yeah. I lost that match, but I feel like it was actually a lot closer than it seemed. Game 1, I had problems with all my stops, and I probably lost because of that. In Game 2, I got a little unfortunate that I didn't draw any of my sideboard cards, and just kind of got brick-walled by the double Reckoner hand. Alright, so here's Game 2, Round 2. This opening hand has the mana for a turn 3 Smiter, and it has all 3 of my primary colors of mana, and Smiter probably buys me enough time to get Thragtusk going. Wolf Run is great if the game goes late. So here in the 0-1 bracket, I'm going to keep this hand on the play. This is a solid hand. It's not outstanding. There are decks that could run you over through this hand, but not many. So Rootbound Crag makes me think I'm happy with the hand I have against most of the likely opponents that start the game with a Rootbound Crag. And then he plays a Kessig Wolfrun on turn 2, which makes me think he's one of the heavier end Naya decks. But then he plays a Stromkirk Noble, which makes me suspect that he's just on the mono red splash green deck, and he scoops to my Loxodon Smiter. Kind of baffling. Like, why? What was his hand that he's just scooped to Loxodon Smiter? My guess is his hand is like 2 Searing Spears and a Hell Rider and something else that he can't get him through that Smiter, and he knows he's going to have to spend multiple turns to kill it, and there's no possible way that he can get through that in time. And he just decides to scoop. I'm all in favor of red players scooping. You shouldn't actually scoop if you're playing on Magic Online, but if you're playing red, go ahead and scoop whenever. So I board in the Blind Obediences and the Faith Menders because it looks like he's on the hyper aggro red plan. Taking out my Visionaries may actually have been wrong. It's possible that what I want to do is keep a couple of those and pare down the numbers of Sphinx's Revelation, although that also feels wrong. Angel of Serenity and Terminus were the only cards that were easy cuts because they're just too slow. So here, we're going to be on the draw, so I briefly considered keeping that, but a 1-lander is just too risky. There's no reason to keep that. This hand is a little awkward, but Blind Obedience does do good work, and while we don't have green for the Thragtusk, by the time we want to cast Thragtusk, I assume we will. And we have all our other colors, so we peel Supreme Verdict, so that's a pretty decent one. Like, Blind Obedience into Supreme Verdict is, sort of one of the better openings you can have. And we got lucky, our opponent had a Stomping Ground, but no 1-drop, apparently. So, and here's a Rakdos Cackler. Alright, sweet. But he doesn't put a Rancor on or anything, so I'm kind of wondering what kind of hand could our opponent possibly have kept here that would justify what? I don't understand the thought process of whatever hand he kept. But anyway, we cast the Blind Obedience so that any hasty guy on the third turn, any Ashes Zealots or whatever, you know, Lightning Mauler into 1-drop or whatever he might do on the third turn just doesn't happen. And then, yeah, I mean, I've got the mana for my Supreme Verdicts. I've found the green for my Thragtusk in a couple turns. Everything looks good. So he drops Stormkirk Noble. He's obviously short on lands again. It's a pretty easy choice to Supreme Verdict here. When I have another one in hand, there's really no reason to get greedy and hold the second one. Like, all I need to do is just live to start casting the other cards in my hand, and there's no way I lose. You could make the argument that the best play is to, because he's bricked on lands, to Azorius Charm one of those guys to the top when he attacks, and then trigger Blind Obedience. But I think that's riskier than just dropping another, you know, creature, dropping a Supreme Verdict instead of letting him get another guy on the board. So I peel the 5th land. Here comes Thragtusk. I'm going to be on 21 life with a Blind Obedience on the board. My opponent's stuck on 2 land. Pretty obviously a win, and he scoops. So yeah, that's match 1 and match 2 from that premiere event. I'll have the rest of the matches up in a few videos. Thanks for watching, guys.